We have a very, very, very special guest today, everyone. I worked very hard to get this. This is like the crown jewel of my achievement here working for this podcast. I'm honored for everyone to listen to the wisdom, the words, the eloquence of Miss Taylor Mascetta. I want everyone to just give a round of applause to Miss Mascetta.
All myself.
Thank you so much, Taylor, for coming on. First of all, this is a great honor.
Oh my god, of course. Always happy to hop on to podcast, talk about my life. So yeah, thanks for having me.
Yeah, yeah. So we'll get right into it. I think that people know the current Taylor Mascetta. They know the Newhouse history. They know the WFUV. They know the Fordham track and field history. They know you wrote for the Fordham Ram. They know all of this stuff. But then when you go back into kind of deeper Taylor lore, it's not quite as fully fleshed out. So let's talk about your superhero origin story at Immaculate High School. That's like the perfect name for a high school. It's like perfect name for someone like you to go to. I went to Immaculate High School. Like, what high school did you go to? Mine was Immaculate, personally. So I think that's a really cool name. And you were very active there. National Honor Society, newspaper club, which I'm assuming that's where you got your start being in that club. Can you talk about that?
Yeah, I don't remember which year I joined, but I think I started working with the newspaper club, like I think either my sophomore or junior year. Because like I was like mentally trying to figure out what college major I wanted. So I was like, oh, I'll try out a little bit of everything, and obviously for the resume, I was like, I gotta impress some colleges. So I started. I was actually my best friend, one of my best friends on the track team that I was running on was like the editor in chief. So like I was like, I'm pretty sure I was the vice president, the secretary. We just like we didn't do like we did a couple articles for it, but it was like kind of cool to like dip our toes into like starting to report. So like it was pretty fun.
Yeah, yeah, and you certainly rose from that point, and it's just been skyrocketing since then. Also, I find interesting you worked in the pottery club at Immaculate High School. So you also, being a Renaissance woman, you were dabbling in architecture. You were, doing sand and clay together. Like, if you've ever been out west, because my dad grew up in New Mexico. Out in New
Oh,
Mexico, they have, yeah, kind of crazy, exotic, right? So my dad, he grew up around pueblos. Like, the way they have the architecture there is, it's like everything is made out of clay. It's not like the boring Northeast. Not to trash our beloved tri-state area, but so when you were doing pottery club, were you working with that kind of stuff, like clay and making little houses? And I don't know. I'm just
honestly, I I completely forgot I was in the pottery club until you just brought it up. I like
Oh
what like me
wow.
and my friends joined, I think like our senior year, and I think we did like oh man, I don't even remember. I think I did like one or two pots. I wasn't there too much because I would have to go for like 15 minutes and then sprint the track practice. But it was just like fun. I was super close to my the art teacher, which was funny because I never took an art class. She was my homeroom teacher, so I would go and visit, and then I guess I joined the body club from there. But it was just like fun to like just be able to spend a little extra time with my friends before graduation.
Yeah. Are you still in contact with her by any chance?
I haven't I haven't spoken to her in the past like 2 years, but I think I spoke with her a little bit. I want to say my sophomore year of college,
That's
and then
good.
I think it's tough with COVID because when COVID hit, I wasn't really able to go back and visit my high school. And now obviously like I've been like kind of traveling a lot for like grad school and like senior year I was like in the Bronx for like FED. So like I haven't really been home too much to go and visit, but I would like to go and stop by for like a career day and maybe like reunite. So that would be cool.
Yeah. Yeah. That could be an alternate career for you, just in case journalism. Not that it wouldn't work out, because it will, but I
Yeah.
think it's important that everyone has an alternate career path. Like, for me, if none of this worked out, I always told my parents garbage man would be perfect for
Oh,
me. Great benefits. Just it's really just a solid, dependable job. So maybe, not that it wouldn't work out. I'm not doubting your talent
I'll be
here,
an artist. I'll
but
be an art I took a drawing class senior year of college, so
there we
we
go.
got started there. We got started there.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
yeah.
So something to consider. And so, of course, I want to talk about, you were in track and field at Immaculate High School. So how long have you been involved in the sport of track and field? Has that been since you were like 3 years old? Have you just been sprinting down the hallways? Tell me about that.
So I officially started competing, I wanna say in 2nd grade. So, funny enough, I always tell this story, I was always the last person picked in gym class. I couldn't, and I still probably can't catch a ball to save my life. People were dreading having me on their team for, like, soccer or anything, but whenever we would have the yearly fitness test, I would always win the mile by, like, a very wide margin. So my dad ran track in college, and he was like, you should try it out at St. Craig's, make some friends." That was my
Yeah.
elementary school. So I competed there, and I like loved it because I actually felt like I was good at it, and I ended up getting well, I don't want to say like recruited. I spoke to him at a club
Well,
there.
they recruited. You had
Recruited
some.
by my high school, I
Yeah.
guess. So I was talking to the coach there, and he's like, "You should try cross country." And I was like, kind of scared because like the farthest distance I had ever raced was a 400, so that's like one lap around an outdoor track. And I was like, "Are you really gonna make me run a 5K?" That no, but I ended up joining and ended up falling in love with like the mid distances. So I would do 800 mile, like stuff like that, like the farther I got into high school. So I think it all started in that 2nd grade track practice. I remember we would have it like twice a week, and it was so much fun. I remember like whenever it would rain, we would still have practice, but we had capture the flag instead of like actual training. So like I'd be like sprinting up and down like the parking lot. So that was always like really really fun.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, just a little bit about me personally. Not that it's all about you this episode, but I tried, or I guess played is not the right term. I ran cross country in middle school, and I was actually not terrible. Thank you very much. I was like middle of the pack, but I also every time I'd have a track meet, I enjoyed the scenery because we do, we go through Sunken Meadow State Park, which is a nice place in Long
Oh,
Island.
you reached
You've heard
Sunken
of it?
Meadows?
Yeah,
I don't think I've
yeah.
ever competed there, but my friends have, so I've heard of it.
Look at that. Small world right there.
Yeah.
We also, speaking of Fordham in the Bronx, I ran at what's it called?
Oh, Van Cortlandt, I know.
Yes,
Oh,
yes,
yeah.
yes,
Oh,
Van
yeah,
Cortlandt. And I'm sure you're very familiar with Van Cortlandt from
very.
your Fordham.
Maybe a little too familiar with that place. Oh my
Oh
gosh.
boy, okay. Um, but yeah, so I did some of the cross country meets, and I enjoyed the scenery. But then when I started running, I just felt this feeling like I hate my life. I hate doing this. I just and being in great shape is great. That's excellent. But for me, it's just running is I do it when I have to, to stay in shape, of course. But me and running are not exactly on great terms. Not in the same way that you and running are. So I tip my hat to you. One legend, one Libra to another. One day apart in birthdays. But I want to talk about how you went from Immaculate High School to Fordham. You came in 2019. Was Fordham always top of the list? And also, how did your track and field uh, student athlete history at high school, did that impact your trajectory and influence you to go to Fordham?
Got it. It was funny enough, I didn't know if I wanted to run in college or not until, like, I think midway through my sophomore year of high school. Like, I was like I, like, clearly remember this. I was doing, like, a 400 workout with my teammates, and for some reason, I was like, "Oh, man, I totally wanna run college." So I started reaching out to coaches my, junior year, and I the first thing I did was I Googled best journalism schools D1 because I wanted to try and go D1. I was like, nothing against, like, D2 or D3, but I was like, "I wanna look there first before I, like, consider other options." So I was like, Fordham was one of the ones that came up on the list, and ironically, Syracuse did as well. So I reached out to a lot of the coaches. Like I reached out to Holy Cross, Sacred Heart, Fordham, and I was just like kind of in contact with them for a bit. And I was like average at running at the time, but then it was like my junior year was when I started getting really really good. Like we competed. It was like I got a spot on our 4x8 relay midway through my junior year. We got third at New England's there, and then did well at New Balance Nationals. And then like senior year was like kind of just riding off of that confidence wave. Indoor went really really well. It was I was the anchor leg for our 4x8, and I was able to I had a really really good race the day of the state open, so we won the state championship in indoor for the 4x8, and then won New England's a week later, which was completely unexpected. I just had the race of my life, and I think that was getting some coaches pretty interested. But I went on a couple official visits, and Fordham was actually the second visit I think I went on, and it was a bit funny story, it was a bit of a stressful visit because my job scheduled me to work the same day as the homecoming dance, so I spent a majority of my official visit trying to find coverage for my job, so I was, like, kinda freaked out the whole time, but, like, at the
Yeah.
same time yeah.
Was
It was
this for the ice cream scooper
it was
job
for
where
the
you
ice
tried?
cream shop. I for
Really?
I forgot to take off, and I was like, yeah, I was just really I get very stressed out about things like that super easily, but, I met a lot of really cool people at Fordham, and I was like, "Oh, it might be really cool to go to this, school in the city." So I stayed in contact with them. I actually met with the Syracuse coach in December, funnily enough, like, I met with him, and then I decided ultimately it was, like, a little too far from home, and, like, I wasn't sure if I was gonna get into Newhouse with undergrad because it's so hard to get in.
Yeah.
Um, but I kept that door a little bit open, as we'll get to later in the podcast. So I ended up committing to Florida midway through February. My times were getting a lot better, and I was just, like, kind of riding on, like, a really just riding on a high at the end of, track. I still say that probably my senior year of high school was, like, my best year of running. I had so much fun with it. I was 2nd in the state in the 800 and outdoor. So that was just like really, really cool. So getting the Fordham, obviously, like it's really tough to kind of go from like top of the state to like the NCAA is like a very, very, very different landscape. It's like kind of just like throwing you to the wolves because it's like everyone is top of the state, pretty
Yeah.
much. So that transition was kind of hard at first. Like I think I wish freshman me had given myself a little bit more grace. Like, hey, your times aren't going to improve immediately. You might need a little time to get used to everything. But I was really just like kind of loving every like person I was meeting. I met like a couple of my best friends and like everything was going pretty good. And then COVID happened. That was a year knocked out, but it was kind of nice to like have like chill practices and kind of be like a normal college student. And then obviously senior and or not junior and senior year happened, and it went pretty well. I had some highs, I had some lows. But I mean overall it was like a really just a cool experience.
Yeah. Yeah. So what I'm picking up here is that your junior year of high school was like when your LeBron-esque run started heading in, or your Caitlin Clark-esque, I
Yeah.
could mention female from women's sports. Your
Yeah.
Caitlin Clark-esque run started in your junior year of high school, and then all the schools are looking at you, and then you decided Fordham, Syracuse, a little too far, a little too cold, maybe, but you're adjusting now, of course, of the weather, I'm assuming, but um, you had that transition into Fordham from what I'm getting that was relatively smooth compared to other freshmen because you were a part of that team and you were able to make those friendships early on. Did you come into Fordham like early because you were an athlete? Like how does that work?
I came a week early. So basically how Fordham with cross country, we have preseason for like I think it's like the second or third week of August. It really just depends on how like the school calendar works. So we come in a week early, get to meet everyone on the cross country team. I knew a couple of girls from beforehand. Like we had a Snapchat group chat, but we were all living like across like the East Coast. So like we hadn't met each other like really in person until we moved in. Except I did meet who would end up being my best friend on the team, Miss Alexandra. Shout out to her. We met at a track meet like I wanted a couple months before we committed, and funnily enough, we were on our official visit together, but I felt so bad I completely forgot what her name was until we reunited in White Plains, and she was like, "We were on the official visit together," and I was like, "Oh my
Yeah.
god, that's where I know you from."
Yeah,
And
and
then
we're both terrible with names. I'm terrible with names too. I'll still see a best friend walking down the street. I'll be like, "Oh, hey, just but it's I relate to you in that way. It could be very awkward when and you feel terrible too because
oh, I felt so bad. I remember
yeah,
I walked past her at indoor nationals, and I was like, I couldn't put the names. I was like, "Where do I know this girl from?" And then it all clicked at White Plains, and she still makes fun of me about it to this day. But yeah, so we moved in, and she lived a floor above me, and we like immediately hit it off. So it was like nice, like because like once we were in preseason, we got to meet all the upperclassmen, start training, see what like running was kind of like with the program. That was when I was introduced to the Van Cortlandt back hills for the first time, and I've never known peace since because it's the hardest area to like race. But yeah, it's always fun. I remember I would always look forward to preseason every single year because it's like kind of just like very chill. The only thing you have to worry about is practice. There'd usually be like a little like welcoming party on like Saturday night that week, so that's always like kind of fun. But yeah, so like I mean, it was pretty cool. Well, it was like I know a couple teams like go like 2 or 3 weeks early, but I think Fordham had a nice balance where we actually had like a full summer vacation before
yeah,
having moved.
yeah, that's very nice. And so I'm assuming you're still in constant contact with all the members of the team now because you're like the flagship person, even though you've graduated and you're at Syracuse, they still know you as, the face of Fordham track and field. Correct me if I'm wrong. So you're still in constant communication with all the members, I'm assuming.
Yeah, I would say my friend Kyla is the face of Fordham track and field. That girl has broken like every single school record we've had. She's incredible. Hoping she wraps up the year pretty well. But yeah, I've stayed in contact with like pretty much everybody. I'm the type of person like I love like just maintaining my friendships. Like one of the hardest parts like staying up here is like I'm so far away from everybody. So like I'm hoping to move back to like at least close to the city so I can still like see people on the weekends and everything. I talk to a couple of my friends like every single day. Me and Alexandra are usually freaking out about something over text like daily. So it's been like nice to be able to still kind of like maintain those friendships, and then FUV as well. Like as I'm sure we'll talk about, because it's just like I consider myself a big extrovert. Like I just love talking to people and like getting to know them and just like trying new things. And
Yeah.
um yeah, it's like definitely like coming from like transferring from Fordham to Syracuse. Like obviously now I've just got like a ton of like running friends, which is like pretty cool. But it's like two very different like team styles, which has been kind of cool to experience. But yeah, no, it's been nice to like kind of just like staying on top with everyone. And like what's nice is like everyone kind of stays like New York City based like after graduation. So like hopefully I'll be able to see like a good amount of people at homecoming.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And I want to briefly give a shout out to one of your teammates. She liked the post that I was featured on for WFUV News.
Oh,
I'm not
oh,
sure if that's Skylar D. Harris.
her. Oh,
Yeah,
I love her. I adore that girl. She's amazing. She's doing
yeah.
really cool like journalism work. So yeah, we talk. I see her every couple months. She's awesome.
Yeah, well, tell her I appreciate the support
Yeah,
on
I'll give her
social
a text
media.
after this.
I really I really am flattered whenever people just tune in, not just to my personal shows, but also with WFUV. Just a quick example. In my class yesterday, I just finished the presentation, and when I sat back down, this girl turns around and says to me, "Are you Ben Oppenheimer, the podcast guy?" And I'm like flabbergasted. Like I have no idea what to say, and because I'm just you know full of joy and I'm just speechless. And I say, "Well, yes." And then she says, "Oh, I listen to your Suits podcast all the time." Now I know some of our listeners, when they watch this, they might think I'm lying to you right now, but I'm telling you the truth. That happened yesterday, and I was very flattered when it did happen. So once again, I appreciate your friend Skylar
Yeah.
for her support.
Mhm.
Um, but yeah, you also your resume is so large at Fordham. What I find interesting is not only did you write for the Ram, but you were also the opinion editor for the paper, which is the lesser known newspaper at Fordham. I think maybe not quite as many people know about it, but it's more of maybe a niche, not in an insulting way. I'm not trying
Oh,
to,
no, 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 no.
but what was that like? Because I don't know much about the paper. Can you tell me about that?
The paper is basically like the free speech publication on campus. So we're just kind of a meme, and I adored it. I remember I joined it my freshman year, and was able to get the opinions editor spot like pretty early on. And so it's like you basically can write about like anything you want. I remember I wrote like an 800-word article about how much I loved matcha green tea one year. I remember I convinced a couple of my teammates to join, and one kid wrote like about squish. I forced him to write about squishmallows. But yeah, so like it's been like it was really really cool. Like we would meet like 9 p.m. on Tuesdays, and we have like imaginary beef with the Ram, which was like always pretty funny. We have like a box of like sweatshirts like in like the because like we share like one of the editing rooms with the Ram, so the sports department works there actually. And they've some certain people have stolen the paper sweatshirts at Lou
Oh,
Orlando. So that the war has been ongoing for a couple of years. But yeah, the paper was just like a really cool, like really really fun. So I worked as an opinions editor there for like 2 years before me and my friend Nora were co-editors in chief, I think, for like junior senior year. So that was like really really fun. Like I became a Canva god through them. So yeah, it was really really fun. It was like easy to like it was funny. Like I was a bit of a double agent because I was the student athlete columnist for the Ram, but like I think I wrote way more for the paper, and it was just really really fun.
yeah, that's great. I'm sorry, I kind of had a malfunction with the board here. When you mentioned Lou, I was trying to do the like the womp 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 thing, which I there it is.
Yeah, no,
Um,
Lou, give the sweatshirt back.
yeah, Yeah, come on, Lou. This is a order from Miss Masetta. She's telling you you just have to you have
He's
to
stolen so many things from me.
really, really.
Yeah.
I'm sure we'll talk about that more. But anyway, I'm still new with this, so I apologize for the board malfunctions.
Great.
But it's all work in progress. But that's great because I really don't know much about the paper, and but it seems like from what you described and from the little that I've heard about it, is that it's more of a freewheeling kind of creative experience than the RAM. Not that the RAM isn't great because I've written my fair share of articles for them,
Mhm.
and so that's just great. And I want to talk about how, because even leaving Fordham, you're still the big woman on campus. You're, Miss Popular. Everyone is familiar with Miss Masetta. Did that influence you to be the social media chair for Fordham Track and Field because you have a natural social media presence? Did that feel like a natural shoe in for you?
Oh yeah, I still can't believe our coach gave the password to like a bunch of us. So I remember we taught it was like over COVID and we were trying to figure out online engagement and he was like, "Who would be interested in being social media coordinators?" And I was like, "Me." So they gave me the password. I had it for like 2 years. So it was like pretty fun because I would do like a lot of like Instagram story content. Like I remember my friend Jeremiah like filmed me doing a workout once and I posted on the story. I'm very big. Like I want people to like understand, like see like what I'm doing from day to day. Maybe they can like take something out of it, learn something new about themselves. So it was kind of cool to be able to like showcase myself on the Fordham platform and just honestly just increase like traffic. I want Fordham I want Fordham Track to get on the map. I want more people to know about us because it's a really great program. And I think we've definitely increased our following over the past couple years. So it was a pretty fun experience. Unfortunately, my password I it was revoked senior year. I was not on it senior year. I remember all exactly. Me and my
Sorry, sorry.
friends we fell to our knees when we found it. We did not have access anymore. But yeah, I mean it's just been fun. So yeah.
Yeah, no, that's excellent. And what I find interesting about the Fordham Track and Field social media presence is that, if correct me if I'm wrong, you guys are named Spiked Shoe Club on Instagram, or am I confusing you with another like fan
Oh, it's
account?
us. That's us. We still don't know why it's not Fordham Track and Field. It's Fort Spike Shoe Club. I mean, I feel like we can't change it now because it's completely stuck. And it kind of stands out from other places. I just hope if someone's Googling Fordham Track and Field on Instagram, Spike Shoe Club still pops up. But I think it kind of rolls off the tongue. I remember the
Yeah,
Thoroughs started like another page. It was like Fordham Smooth Shoe Club. I think that lasted like a year or two. I'd have to ask my friend Casey if they're bringing it back. But yeah, so it's like it's our mantra, I guess.
yeah, yeah. No, it's definitely a creative way to get engagement. Because for me, that's memorable. That's much more memorable than just plain old Fordham Track and Field. It's like I think that's the um the perfect way to do it. And I want to get into something maybe slightly more serious, but I think it's absolutely commendable. Is you were a member of Fordham Connect, which is a mental health discussion group for Fordham athletes. So what was that experience like, being within that community, and also what encouraged you to join that?
Yeah, so Connect is was something really, really important to me over the course of my Fordham experience because as much as I love track and field, it's also been like kind of the source of a lot of like mental health, just like depression, everything. Just like because like sometimes when you base yourself on a performance so much, it can really affect the way you see yourself. And I was kind of falling into that trap, especially like my junior and senior year. So Connect is a great place for like athletes to kind of come together and talk about like different experiences. I know they had like a BIPOC one meeting like a couple times, diversity, LGBT, like a lot of different like things were discussed with Connect, and like one of those was mental health. So I remember we would meet over Zoom. I think I met one or two times like in person. It was a very pandemic era thing, and just like everyone kind of like sharing their experiences with like being a student athlete, juggling everything, like maybe just like trying to find that confidence in yourself inside and outside of your sport. So obviously like being a part of Connect was really important to me because I felt like I mentioned it earlier, like I want like my like I've gone through like a lot of stuff. Like, it's been a lot of ups and downs of, like, competitions and just, like, some relationships and everything, and, like, I'm like, if one person can feel better about, like, what they might necessarily be going through because I decided to share my story and give my advice, that means the world to me. So being in Connect, having both my story heard and having other people listen to something I might be, like, ranting or frustrated about was, like, a really, really important thing, and I've made a couple friends through it, like, from, like, the soccer and the softball team, which was, like, really great. So yeah, I was really, really proud to be a part of Connect, and like I really can't wait to see what the future of the platform it goes.
Yeah, that's excellent. I think a good analogy is a lot of times as sports fans, we think of athletes almost as 2K players. You know, when I play NBA 2K, it's like when a guy doesn't hit a shot. Now, obviously, in 2K, it's different. It's just an AI character, not making the shot or whatever that you want him to hit. But in real life, I think especially with the emergence of sports betting, which I have strong opinions about.
Oh yeah, I've
um,
seen your
yeah,
article.
yes. Thank
Yeah.
you. So, and I'm sure we'll talk about that in a little bit, but what I think is people don't realize or they forget that athletes on every level, professional, college, high school, they're human beings, and that sounds obvious, but I think a lot of times spectators and fans who are watching on the couch with a diet coke and a slice of pizza, and they're screaming at the TV or deciding to do Twitter fingers on their social media accounts. I think that they forget to realize that they're just like you or me, or I mean, you are an athlete, so like you're
Yeah,
one of
you were
the
in
athletes.
country. You were an athlete.
I was an athlete, and I guess managing the basketball team sort of counts as like an asterisk, because I did that both at Fordham and in high school.
Cool.
Um, but back to what I was saying. I think that uh, we as fans, as spectators, we have to have a more comprehensive view of athletes, and not that you can't criticize a player for making a poor decision, or just have stuff within reason. But I think especially with the emergence of betting, the comments that I've seen on some social media accounts is just it's just uncalled for. So, and I also think that it's important, it's great to see players opening up about that they're not robots. I mean, we saw Angel Reese, I believe, in that press conference, she had that statement. And I think that that's a great thing, because I think for so long we haven't really had conversations like that, and it shows things are changing. I mean, I remember, just before we go on to another topic, I remember that you might remember this too because you're a sports savant. Kevin Love, like around 7 years ago, I think it was like halfway through my high school career. Um, he announced that he had a panic attack during a Cavaliers game on the bench or something, and I remember first reading that and I was kind of confused. Like, I'm thinking, you're making millions of dollars a year. You've got the good life. You're in the NBA. What do you have to be panicking about? And then as I thought more on it, I realized that, um, there's so much pressure and spotlight on these players. And obviously, it's such a huge stage, the NBA. It totally makes sense to me now. But I think that that initial instinctive reaction was of me, the kind of the fan sitting on the couch with the pizza, like, and I'm trying to get out of that mentality, not only to help me in my journalism and reporting it as a young aspiring broadcaster, but also just I think it's a healthier mentality to see the players fully as they're people too, obviously.
Oh yeah,
So,
I totally agree.
um,
Like about that. It's like I think something that I always kind of struggled with for a bit was like separating Taylor as the athlete from Taylor as the person. I think one of my like biggest struggles with that was like I was running like such insane times like my senior year of high school. I never really ended up matching that as much as I had hoped. I had a really good year junior year of track. Like I was running really well, but then I got hit with an injury and that knocked me out for the rest of the year, but I was running like the best times I'd ever ran. And I remember I was just like so down on myself and I was like, "Oh man, maybe I'm not like cut out for this. Why am I still even doing like I just feel like I feel like I'm disappointing everyone around me and like myself more importantly." And I think like having like those thoughts, like I didn't think it was, but it is completely normal to kind of like be like stressed out about that type of stuff, but you also have to like I think like people watching and like even the athletes themselves have to remember like you're human too. Like you're allowed to be like bummed out. Like your athletic performance does not say anything about the measure of you as a person. You could be doing such incredible things on and off the field and you matter no matter what you're doing. And I think it took me a really long time to kind of like come to terms with that. Like I'll briefly mention Syracuse running has not necessarily like gone my way this year, just like with training and injuries and everything. But like I think I've learned to like kind of just have fun with it at this point. Like it's cool enough that I'm here and I have this experience and I get to meet the people that I'm around. And it's just like kind of just like being proud of yourself no matter what the results is. And I think taking that pressure off kind of like makes you feel a lot better about like everything that's going around. And I think with like obviously like watching these professional athletes, like I think like we can just remember like, hey, like they're people too. They deserve to be treated with that respect and maybe kind of like being like a little like having more empathy for when there is a bad performance or a reaction after even a good report. Like, we see how everyone was so mad at Angel Reese after the national championship with Iowa. So like I think just kind of like that's like something I always like want like my journalist work to do, like is to just be like, hey, like you got to see both sides. I've been both sides, and I think it's important to kind of just recognize them both.
Yeah, yeah. Nothing truer could be said. And I want to, even though that was some excellent talk that we just had, I want to go into something a bit lighter. Is your career at WFUV, and you came in a little bit late in your junior year. Correct
I
me
was
if
late. I was really late.
yes. So I was also late, but that's because I was a transfer. So I came in as a junior as a transfer, but you came in your junior year, and that was fall of 2021. Who encouraged you specifically to join that? Was it just like a spark of genius in your head? Was it like Isaac Newton when the apple fell on his head and he just had the idea for gravity? Was it just like that? Like it just happened?
You gotta thank the Fordham core curriculum. So I was actually I had to take a class for my journalism requirement. I can't remember the exact correct like requirement was named, but I had to take like a news. It was like a news in the field, like it was like a news gathering in the field class, and one of the requirements was that you had to volunteer at FEV for I think 8 hours a week. I was able to negotiate it down to 4 because with my track schedule it was just too much. And I was also kind of like looking for an outlet from track at the time. Like I was kind of dealing with just like some rough races. I had a couple like friendship, like just a lot of like friendship drama, and I was like, I need something else to be putting some energy towards. And I ended up joining the station, and I was terrified at first actually because I joined news first. And
Really?
they
Okay.
yeah, so we were the news sports hybrids right here.
Yes. Yes, that's
Um,
right.
so I joined news and I was terrified because we kind of got like I kind of got thrown into the fire a little bit. I had to call people on the phone like asking for stories, and I was like, I have 2 hours to turn this around. They're not picking up. So like I was kind of like I was just like a bit of bundle of nerves,
I've
but
been there. I've been there.
yeah. But like my professor was I don't know if you ever overlapped with him or not. George Bordegie. Totally butchered his
Yes,
last.
I did vocal training with him. So I didn't
Oh, okay,
he came
nice.
in one day, I think it was last fall where he came in and we did vocal training. He made me like scream at the top of my lungs and do all this like
Oh yeah, we did
weird
that
stuff.
exercise too.
Yeah,
Like he was great. He was my professor, and then I had Robin Shannon as my podcasting professor, and me and Robin are really really close to this day. And so like I did news for like a bit, and I was like kind of unsure if I still wanted to like keep doing it or not. Because I was like this is stressing me out. But like the more I did it, the more I really enjoyed it. And I remember I wasn't sure how well FEV was going to fit into my track schedule because track and cross country are kind of different with like scheduling and practices and everything.
yeah.
But I remember it was like the last like official day of the fall semester. Robin got us all these like cute little Christmas gifts. I got a little CD and like some chocolates, and I was like, I'm gonna stick around. I think I'm gonna stick around. So and I'm so glad I did. It was like a life changing experience working at FUV. And that she was actually the reason I went into sports. I showed up, I think, in January, and I get an email from Robin. She was like, "Oh," and the subject literally is like, "Taylor, meet Bobby C." So Robin was like, "Oh, since Taylor's a student athlete, I think she'd love to be in the sports department." And I was like, "Huh? I've never watched the NBA ever." So
Really? Wow, I thought you were
I watched a
you are
little
the
bit.
sports savant.
Yeah, I'm more into like NFL college sports,
Okay. Okay.
basketball. So I was a little nervous, but ended up working out. obviously.
Yeah.
So Robin got me in contact with Bobby. I joined my mock group, and then I mean the rest is history. I mean it was just awesome and made me realize I wanted to be a sports broadcaster. So, and I stuck with news too. I did news and sports, which was great because I spent a lot of time in the station. And yeah, it was just like a big happy family on both sides.
Yeah, yeah, that's great. And who was like your mentor in the newsroom when you came in? Was it David? Because for me, it was David and sort of Maya. And David, I still drive him crazy to this day. You can ask him about that. And he's actually about to finish up his grad year here. So shout out David. And so, was there anyone in specifically who was that kind of person for you that helped get you comfortable in news first?
There were so many people. I think Megan Oftermatt came in as like our news I think the head producer like midway through June, and me and her got really really close. And she was so great in helping me like grow because like I spent the summer at FEV with news primarily, and then I would do sports on the weekends. And Megan just like helped me. She was like, okay, so this is how you could do that story, this is how you write that script. And she was just like absolutely incredible. And then I got to know Maya. Me and Maya are like this. I adore that girl. So like having both of them kind of as my muses for news was just like absolutely like incredible. Like I learned so much from the two of them, and they're just like two really inspiring women in the industry. And it's like I want to be like them like once I graduate. So like I learned a lot, and like what was better, it was like we were friends too. Like I would come in and I would tell them about my weekend, about my like they cared so much about like my races and stuff, which meant a lot. So yeah, it was just really, really cool.
Yeah, yeah, that's excellent. And then when you segued over to sports, can I ask who was in your training group? Like, what was that
Oh
training group
yes,
like?
oh yes, the A team. We got Sam Bohr, Maddie Bamonte, Eli Keeler, and Brian Rayback. So that was the core. That was the five. That was the
Oh,
five of
wow.
us for a
Wow,
while.
that is stacked. That I might have to put the applause on for that
Do
one.
it.
Just that's stacked. That really is that's crazy to have. Like,
You know,
is that how you guys became the
that's how we
people
got
that
really
come up?
I will forever remember the day we had our first mock Zoom. I hop on, I think Brian got on first, and we were just like it was just like a very chill, like, "Oh, guys, like, this is what we're gonna talk about," very just, like, professional kind of. And then we went in, we recorded the episode, and, like, we were all, like, chatting it up, like crazy in the back. I ended up bumping into Brian like out that Saturday, and it was he still makes fun of me to this point because like I completely had forgotten that we had bumped into each other at Mugs like the next week after he brought it up. Sorry, Brian. And then from there we were all getting like really excited about mocks. And we got like really, really close, like really, really fast. That second Zoom call when we were talking about what we were going to talk about, I think it turned into like an hour long chat about catching up on life and just like buzzing about like something that happened over the weekend. And then I remember, I think I just got like really, really close, and like I was like, oh wait, these people are like really, really cool. And then we spent like the entirety of spring weekend hanging out together. I remember me, Maddie, and Sam were at Olivia O'Brien, and we went crazy during spring weekend. It was so much fun. And we've been super close ever since, and it's been really, really great.
Yeah, that's like straight out of like a Disney movie, just
Oh,
storybook.
literally, it's like
Yeah.
coming of age.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's excellent. And
We're all
um,
different grades too. Like
yeah,
me and the old heads. You got Brian and Maddie in the same group. Eli's the baby. Um, Lou and Jack are also young, so like it's just like funny because like we're all like so different in ages. So
yeah. Yeah, but friendship, it transcends age, it transcends
it
time.
does.
So it's a beautiful thing. But can I ask, or maybe you mentioned it? I'm sorry, I got short-term memory loss sometimes. I just same thing when I'm bad with names. I'm just like sometimes people ask me like, "Oh, did you get all that?" And like I'll just be like, "I wasn't listening to a word you said." Now I'm listening to you right now, of course, and not
Oh
not
no, no,
right now.
you're good. I'm the
But
same way.
um, did you have who was your mock leader in that group?
Who was my mock leader? Oh, I don't remember. Oh man, that you're I'm gonna have to Google that. I don't know. I don't
Yeah,
remember. Not Google. Look at
yeah.
my email.
Well, we can Google it. We'll see if we can find it.
Was it? I think maybe it was Alex Bowles. I don't know. Oh my god. I'll consult the group chat right now.
Yeah,
One
yeah.
sec.
Do they know this episode is being
Oh
recorded?
yes, they cannot wait. They've been texting about it. They're like, oh man, they're listening to the minute it drops. So excited for that. Who was our mock leader? Important for a podcast. Sent. So we'll see. Hopefully they respond by the end of the show. So
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And you, what I want to talk about is you played a role in creating All In, which is women's sports podcast at WFUV. So is that something? Were you like the Steve Jobs of that project? Was it just your brainchild? How did that work?
I think it was like a bunch of us. I think it was like me, Sam, Julia, Maddie. Like a bunch of us were kind of like cooking it up. I was the one. I brought it to Ryan Gregware, our former sports manager. He was on the show beforehand. So like I remember, I think I mentioned it in like my like availability for, or it was like a interest form. It was an interest form. He called me and he was like, "Do you want to start a women's sports podcast here? Like we make it maybe designed for YouTube. I think there's some other people that would be down the hit to join." I was like, yeah, I mean, absolutely. We don't have anything like that at the station yet. Like, I'd love to like be a part of starting it. So like they were like there was like a good amount of girls like my year and the year below. So like everyone was like really excited to start doing it. So we started out, I think, with like NCAA women's basketball because obviously that was like that's been the talk of like women's sports, and then we would talk a little bit about soccer because it was like Julia knew more about that. I knew a lot about the basketball. I think hopefully maybe this year they can get like women's hockey involved. So like I think it's like it was just like it was fun because there were so many different things to talk about. Like I was able to talk about like women's track and field as well, like couple shows. So like it was just fun, and it was cool to like it's cool for me to be like a part of like something that started at FUV, and like for hopefully like a bunch of like girls later down the line if they want to start something new, like maybe I was a source of inspiration. Maybe if they want to break all in into like a women's basketball specific podcast, a women's soccer specific, like it's just like there's so much they can do with it, and it like means a lot that I was kind of like one of like the four fathers, I don't know, of the pod.
Founding fathers or founding mothers.
Founding
I'm
mothers,
s I'm
founding
I'm
mothers.
sorry. Excuse me, that's my fault. But just bouncing off of that, I think there's been never a better time to be a fan of women's sports, especially with what we've seen in college basketball, and Caitlin Clark. And I'm sure you've heard this plenty of times, but do you feel that if women's sports is a stock, so to speak, do you think it's just shooting through the roof right now? Do you think it's just in that trajectory?
Oh, for sure. Like, I mean, I've seen it on Twitter. I've seen more engagement with the women's game, like in the past, like 3 months than I really honestly ever have. I think like the impact that like players like Caitlin Clark, Angel Reese, now you'd say like Camila Cardozo, like all of them, like they have just made such an impact on the game because they're fun to watch. They're cool. We like seeing them jab at each other. We like seeing all those crazy shots. We've got so many up and coming stars. Like Paige Beckers is like my hero. I love her. So I'm excited to see her ball out with UConn next year. You got Haley Van Liff. Where is she going to end up? I can go on about it forever. And I think like women's college basketball is really just segueing in interest into like all the other mediums. Like obviously like I've seen like interest in the WNBA really just like people are gonna be like watching it, and that's exciting to me because I feel like it's a great product that may just not necessarily have gotten the right like maybe like advertising or
Yeah.
accessibility. It's hard to watch WNBA games, but a lot of them are gonna be nationally televised. So like I think that's something exciting to like look forward to. I know soccer is like completely separate, but like I feel like there's always been like a big interest in like US women's soccer. So I'm just like excited to see like people be like treating them like just like the guys, like like
Yeah.
it's a great product that people may have overlooked for a bit.
Yeah, yeah, and I think it's finally getting its long overdue appreciation. I mean, even Shaq talked about this. I think it was on a podcast. He was like, "Women's college basketball is better than men's this year," and I agree with that. It's just I'm watching the women's tournament and I'm seeing great games. I'm seeing great storylines. I thought that the men's championship game was kind of a snooze fest, to be honest with you. And
Happy bad dogs.
yeah,
Connecticut Red.
yes, actually, I forgot you're a Connecticut fan, but you're also a Michigan fan, which I'm sure
Oh
we briefly talk about. Um, but I also want to add in the fact that with women's sports, you covered some Syracuse women's basketball games, and I saw some of your beat reports on the court there, which you were in the dome, which is a really cool arena. And it's almost like it's not even like a basketball arena. It's really like more of a football thing, I guess,
yeah.
because it's so large.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
Um,
it's so cool.
yeah. And so one thing I noticed that was kind of funny is I think maybe you were subconsciously doing this, but when you were on the screen for your beat report, you were kind of like waving your hands in like an Italian kind of way. And I think that was maybe yes, it was like that. It's the one that you have pinned on your profile. And
Yeah,
I
yeah.
just yeah, and
Thank
I felt like an air of like Italianness when I watched it. So maybe I'm going crazy, but I thought it was I thought it
No.
was funny. And Bobby always tells me, he's like, Italian pride is a beautiful thing. It's a
Yeah.
beautiful thing. And unfortunately, I'm only 6% Italian. I'm mostly Irish. And it's funny because when I say I'm Irish, people are confused because Oppenheimer is a Jewish last name, but I'm mostly Irish. I have a little bit of Jewish. So I like to think of myself as a combination of Conan O'Brien and Ben Stiller if you mix them
Nice.
together. Um, but anyway, so I've seen your beat reports for Syracuse women's basketball, and I've seen you also get to ask questions in the press conferences. One thing I want to ask you, because I've been dealing with this myself,
Okay.
in the two times that I've gotten the huge privilege to beat report for New York Knicks games, I haven't worked up the courage to ask a question in press conference. I'm no Chris Persian, and I'm not quite at his level yet, and I hope to reach it one day. But I find that when I'm in the press room, like my mouth feels like it's like sealed shut. Like I can't, like it's almost like I want to say something and then I don't. There was actually one moment where I just barely started to open my mouth and I was about to say to Coach Thibodeau, I was about to say coach and then ask my question because I had questions prepared. I was prepared. And right when I was about to open a sliver of my mouth, this guy right next to me is like, "Oh, coach." And I'm like, I I like clench my fists. Like no one saw it, but it was like the Simpsons meme where Arthur is like clenching the fist. Have you seen that?
Oh, I've
Um,
seen it. I've seen it.
yeah, yeah. I mean, you know all the memes. You're hip and
I'm
up
well
to
versed.
date. Yeah. Um, but how do you work up that bravery? I really would call it bravery to speak up and ask a question because for me, I still struggle with it.
Well, that's a good question. I honestly struggle with that for a while too, because like I just get very anxious very easily. I'm like, oh man, I don't want to piss off like a coach or anything. But I lucked out with like Syracuse women's basketball. They are like great with the media. The coach is awesome. The players are great. Like it's just very like you feel comfortable asking them the questions. Obviously, you're starting out at the New York Knicks. That's pretty tough. But like I think like definitely like starting out in like even just like a college or a high school space for those press conference, I think like people are it's just a little more approachable. And once you like kind of just like recognize in yourself, like, hey, like my question has value. Like I need this for my story. I can get that cool quote. And hey, maybe the coach or the players will see it after and engage with it and like be like, think that's really, really cool. Like I remember I think the biggest person I've ever asked a question to, I asked Paige Beckers a question after they went over Syracuse, and I was kind of shaking my boots a little bit because I'm like, obviously, like it's just the aura on the press row, like it's just like pretty cool. And by her answer ended up kind of going viral a little bit on ESPN Women's, and it was just cool because I was like, that's content right there, and like that's what I my question could result in. And I'm like, if I don't ask that question, I might not have that chance. I mean, sometimes it's a little like intimidating to like try and like beat someone. Like I, luckily enough, like like the sports information director for the women's games will, like call on people. So like it's a little more intimidating for the men's where it's like you got to be just like, oh, coach, oh,
Yeah.
but kind of just know like being firm, like, oh yeah, I belong here. I'm a journalist as well. I think just like kind of holding your own, that definitely is what will like kind of alleviate that stress. And it's like once you get it out, like each time you do it, the easier it gets. Like I was shaking when I asked Coach Jack my like first question to her ever, like at my first game, and then now it's like a lot more relaxed because I know she's like pretty good with the media, like she's great with the media, and like I mean, it's just like just really kind of comes with time.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, for me, I did do some things before the Knicks. I did some minor league baseball reporting over last summer, and that was just very casual. I got some audio, but then for the Knicks, it's like that was a big jump for me to just get the chance to do two Knicks games. And I remember that one of the first tidbits of advice Chris gave me when I was heading into MSG is he said, when you ask questions, it's not like, oh, you get picked and it's good. Like it's a free for all. So it's like the Wild West out there in that press room. So I just have to learn it with time. I can't be Taylor Mascetta right now or Chris Persiana right now, but
Yeah,
I can be maybe in the future. I mean that's what I'm hoping.
yeah.
But I want to get into some additional Taylor lore. And
The
'cause,
Taylor.
yes, yes, that is genius. You're giving me like genius ideas throughout this podcast, which is just this is great. So you were the announcer at some New Balance track meets, or maybe did I jot that down correctly? You were the announcer at
So I work at the Armory, which
Yeah,
used
the
to be
armor.
by New Balance. Now they're sponsored by
Yeah,
Nike, so it's called
yeah.
the Nike Track and Field Center. But yeah, so I announced a couple high school and college meets. Maybe more than a couple. I've like every single year I try to do like 5 to 7. I think once I'm out of college, I'll be able to do way more than that, which I'm excited about. But it's so much fun. Like I get situated in my little booth, and I get to call like a lot of the races, get to interview some of the runners after, and then like I'm looking into like doing some more social media stuff, hopefully. So we'll see what happens with that, but it's been really, really cool, and I think, like, that's definitely kind of, like, down the pathway of, like, what I wanna do as a career is, like, definitely, like, kind of work in, like, the track and field space and being a content creator there or calling some more races, just a little bit of everything, like so, yeah, it's been an incredible opportunity. That was something Fordham Track and Field brought me to. I remember my coach just texting the group me randomly one day, like, "Hey, does anyone wanna be an announcer at the Armory?" And I was like, "Sure, why not?" And then I got interviewed, and they loved me, and now I'm there, like, 3 years now, hopefully for many more.
Yeah, yeah, that's excellent. I mean, you're doing everything. You're the announcer, at these events. You've played in the game because I think athletes have more respect for broadcasters when they're former players. Now, I'm a former player from, intramural basketball in high school, for calling basketball games. So if I ever get the chance to call a basketball game at the collegiate level, maybe they'll remember that I did play in middle school, so I was a former athlete. Um, but you've done just such a variety of stuff. And you're the receptionist at Ridgefield. I believe it's some sort of
Extreme chiropractic and
yes,
wellness.
Ridgefield Chiropractic and Wellness Center. So what are you doing there? Are you like just giving them a massage and they
So
pay you for the
my
hour? Or?
so shout out to Dr. Chris. It's my dad. He is the owner of Ridgefield Chiropractic and Wellness Center. And when I needed a job over the pandemic, they said you could be a receptionist. So I just check people in, I check people out, I hang out with my mom in the front desk, I hang out with my dad in the back. And it's fun, I get to chat up all the patients. But yeah, no, it's like a nice little side gig, and it's like nice to like I'm really, really close to my dad, so it's nice to like really kind of like spend that time with him.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I mean it's been cool.
Yeah, and are you like the cool kid on the block at the wellness center? Like
Well, I
everyone knows Taylor? Yeah?
My parents talk about me all the time, so everyone knows who I am, which is funny. Like I feel like a little bit of a celebrity there sometimes. But yeah, it's been fun. And my sister's working there too. I think a
Really?
couple. Yeah, so she's following my footsteps. She's just as famous as me. So yeah, it's pretty cool.
And how old is your sister, if I can ask?
She's 18. She's running for Sacred Heart next year. So she's following
Yeah.
in the track footsteps. So very, very proud of her, excited for her. So yeah.
Yeah, that's excellent. Did you try to convince her to be a Fordham athlete or did she
I
just not?
did, I tried. I think she talked to the coach a little bit, but I think she really wants to go into nursing, and Sacred Heart has one of the best on the
Yeah.
East Coast. So she like, I mean, it was a perfect fit for her, and she's really excited. So she'll start in the fall.
Yeah, that's excellent. And I'm sure she looks up to you as a role model and that just it's great that it runs in the family. And is she a receptionist? You mentioned
She's worked as a receptionist a couple
okay.
times.
Okay.
I we haven't worked a shift together yet, I don't think, unless you count when we were 8 or 9 years old and we were just hanging out in the back drawing on the box that's still in the back
Yeah.
closet, working making $20 for filing. So yeah.
Yeah, no, it's for me. I don't know what it's like to have a sibling. So for me, like my closest friends growing up were almost like my siblings because being an only child, I actually don't know that many only childs at Fordham. I think actually we just spoke about Chris. I think Chris might be one. Um,
I'll have to confer with my
yeah,
sources.
yeah. Is Lou an only child? Maybe he might actually. He has siblings, right?
Yeah, I think he has siblings.
Yeah, yeah. I
Well,
don't mean to put
not if
that
I didn't know.
yeah, I don't want to put that misinformation out there, Lou. I apologize, but you're also the ice cream scooper at this local place, and this is the place that you mentioned. You were extremely stressed out when you couldn't find someone to replace you for your shift, and you were freaking out. And I've had that experience too. I've had moments where I used to work at this summer camp for like kids ages 3 to 13 on Long Island. And there was one time where we were supposed to go on a field trip to Splish Splash, which is like I don't know if
Oh,
you've heard of it, but it's like out east on Long Island. It's like a water park. And my alarm, I still have a Lego alarm clock, which I've used since I've been in the second grade. So my alarm clock just refused to wake me up that day. it's like, I have to be at ready for the bus at like 9 a.m. Now the good thing is I'm like 5 minutes away from the camp that I was working at. So that was a good thing. But I had to be there at 9 a.m. sharp. It's like 8:50, and my mom's like, "Oh, Ben, are you I'm just like waking up naturally somehow," which I'm shocked I even woke up naturally that early. I think I went to bed early the night before. It's like 8:50, I'm in my bed. I'm just like, all right, I guess I'll get ready. And I look at the clock, like my eyes like bulge out of my head, like you see in like a
Oh,
cartoon. And so I just like I pulled off a Taylor Mascetta. I just like zipped
sprinter.
downstairs. I like just haphazardly like put everything on, like brush my teeth, get ready, everything. I was there 8:59:59. I did my G-Shock on. I look at it. I'm like, the bus is ready to go. Everyone's like, where is Ben? I
Gosh,
step onto the bus, and it's fine. It's perfect. And
nice.
it
Proud
just
of you.
shows. Yes, yes, thank you. I was trying to do my best, even though I didn't know you at that point. I was doing my best
The
Taylor
best
Masetta impression.
thing.
Almost maybe it was like intuition that I would meet you one day.
Yeah.
But have you ever had a moment like that where you've been running late to any event and you've had to use your track skills to just run right over there?
I mean, I've embarrassed myself a couple times because I don't have a car up in Syracuse, but there's a bus that travels down my street to get to Newhouse, and there are a couple mornings where I see it coming and I have to sprint to the bus stop with all my bags, and I look like an idiot, but I still make it to class on time. So
There
I
we
mean,
go.
sprint is worth it, but yeah.
Yeah, no, that's great. And one thing I did not mention, which is part of Taylor lore, you are or you were a feature writer for USTF CCA. Can you talk about what you did with them?
Yeah, so I was like an intern writer there for just a little bit. I interviewed the head coach at the University of Georgia. So that was really, really cool. So I was able to write an article with them. And yeah, I wasn't with them for too long, but I was able to do one thing and it was pretty sick.
Yeah, no, that's excellent. And one thing I've been thinking, because sometimes I think about alternate realities, I think about what ifs. I don't know if you do the same thing in your spare time, but I've been thinking this whole pod. Is there an alternate reality where Miss Masetta considered Fordham as a grad year instead of Syracuse? And like in some alternate reality, is Taylor Masetta like is she still at WFUV in her grad year in journalism, whatever? Was that a path that you considered?
Very strong possibility. It was down to Syracuse and Fordham actually, but I think I was kind of like ready to I don't know if like move on's the right thing, but I was ready for something new. I was ready to try something new, and like obviously like with the extra year of eligibility, I was like it would be really cool to like see if I could like compete at like the ACC level or anything. And Syracuse obviously has like one of the best broadcasting programs in the country, but so does Fordham. So like I was great either way. So I got into Newhouse, I think like mid February last year, and it was just like really really exciting. And I was like, oh man, I don't know what to do, but obviously I was like, I think it might be worth it to take that chance, make some new friends, get to know like a different side of broadcasting because I think it's more like TV oriented here. So like yeah, it was really really hard to say goodbye to Fordham. Like I remember like the last like April May I was a mess. I was like, oh my god, like I sobbed at the goodbye dinner with my coaches. I sobbed at the senior night. It was just I was sobbing a lot. But yeah, I mean, I think it was just like kind of I felt like it was time for me to close that chapter and move on. I think the one thing I was like bummed about was like I would have loved to do another year of FUV. But it was like I really just had to weigh my options, and Syracuse was the one that came up on top. But I think Fordham is always going to be a part of me. Hopefully, I'll live in the city after graduation. I'd love to come back and like do some speaking. Maybe if my coach needs a volunteer coach, I'd love to hop back on that wave. But yeah, I mean, it's just yeah. So maybe in an alternate universe, Taylor stayed at Fordham for another year. But yeah,
Yeah,
it was hard to leave, but I had to.
yeah. So, but you still bleed maroon, is what you're telling
Oh
me.
yeah. I was talking to my Syracuse teammates the other day. I was like, I need to get a shirt that's like half Syracuse, half Fordham because we race against each other at regionals because we're both schools are in the Northeast regional. So I'm like, I gotta root for both. So like I need
Yeah,
a t-shirt of both. So yeah.
yeah. No, that's excellent. And talking briefly about the comparisons between WFUV and Syracuse's radio station, which I'm sorry, I forgot the initial letters for it. It's
AER.
W
AER.
WAER. So what, like how does it compare just Like, is there anything that was an adjustment just being in the studio? Like what's different from the Syracuse WAER experience compared to the WFUV experience?
So I have not worked with WAER here yet. I don't know if I wanted to try kind of like something like more like because I was like I've done the radio thing for 2 years. I might see if I can do my because we have required internships. So some people worked at AER. I was like I kind of want to try something new. So that's how I got into the beat writing for women for the women's basketball team. But I would like I could kind of tie that into comparing like FEV and like Newhouse. Newhouse is definitely like FEV is like a really great place to be at the beginning because it's like you're allowed, you feel like it's like you can grow and you can develop and you can make those friends. And there's like, it's just like kind of like just like a really great place to like start. Like Newhouse, it's been way more intense. Like it's really kind of like, it's very stressful. You gotta like be on your A game, like constant. Like I was on my A game all the time at FEV, obviously, but like Newhouse, it's like a whole extra level. Like if you miss a deadline, you get a zero on a project or you fail it, and it's like, whoa, it's scary.
Oh,
But like it's a lot more TV stuff, a lot more filming. You should see me walking around with a Nikon camera. So like it's definitely like different in that aspect, but like it's still like I feel like they're kind of similar with like the groups of friends you make and everything. But I think FEV is always gonna have a special place in my heart because that's where everything started for me, and like I think it's just an incredible spot for like young broadcasters and like to make even just friends and like everything like that. So it's cool.
yeah, of course. I think that's so cool that you're venturing into the television landscape. One thing I told, I believe it was Sam Davis, is I wish that Fordham had our own TV studio because when I originally, a long time ago, when I was at Elon my freshman year in North Carolina, if you've heard of it, the Elon has like a TV studio. They have like a student TV station, and it wasn't the school was definitely not the right fit for me, but I in my time there, like I was very familiar with their kind of communications program and that aspect. So, do your insiders, does your inside information? Because I know you have the scoop on things. Is there any potential possibility that Fordham could get something like that in the future?
Oh, I knew FEV News last year. We were kind of discussing the possibility of TV, but I haven't heard anything yet. But if I do, I'll let you know.
Okay, all right. So that's confirmation from Miss Masetta on Ben and Friends that you'll let me know. I
That
just got I got the I got the
that's
Woj
good.
bomb. Um, but yeah, this has just been a privilege to have you on, and really what I'm trying to do is to create a broad audience. Shout out to all the women out there. I'm sorry that it took so long, but it's like all the guys that I'm friends with are like, oh, when you're gonna let me on? It's like I'm being like bombarded with texts every day from people saying, you're gonna let me on? When am I coming on? And then they take it personally, like they're offended when I say, because I am running around everywhere right now. Like it's crazy to say the least. Um, but I want to thank you for taking the time to come on and providing that perspective as a woman in sports, in not just in sports media but in media at large, with your background in news as well. And we need more female voices on the pod. Maybe we could get, if she'd be interested, we could get Sam or Maddie if they'd be
Oh,
interested.
I'll text the chat right now.
Yeah,
Oh,
okay.
we have I still they responded about the mock leaders too. It
Oh,
was
okay.
if we remember right, it was either Alex Wolves, Kayla Wenzel, or Andrew Galata. We can't figure out who the exact two were, but it was one of those three. So
Wow, okay.
yeah,
um
I'll shoot him a text. I'll be like, we need the women on Ben and Friends. So
Yeah, yeah. No, Andrew, I think he was also my mock leader last year because I was in Warner's
oh, you're
mock
a
group,
Mariners group.
and
Oh
yeah,
God,
and that's I always say to
my
Jack,
duo
like,
right there.
I think of our mock groups as like being in the trenches together, like we're
Oh yeah,
soldiers. So like me and Jack, I think Jack actually didn't like me at first because I screwed up big time on my first mock. Julia or someone probably told you about that, but I came in. I'll just quickly tell you this story.
yeah.
Um, I was supposed to be producing for my first like mock thing, and I had no idea like what I was getting into. Like I didn't do any prep. I came in. I made the massive mistake of I came in 5 minutes before the broadcast was supposed to happen.
No,
Yeah. So I'm
no.
also I'm also sick and under the weather. So I'm like I look awful. I'm like stumbling in. I'm like sniffling. I'm like, hey guys, here. And then like Sam Davis and Andrew are looking at me like I'm like a demon from hell or something. Like, like they have, they're just shocked that, first of all, that I finally came in because I think they expected me to be a no show at that point because I was coming in late. And that was on me because I forgot that you had to get there when you're doing mocks like 40 minutes early. So I came in like as I said 5 minutes before and I look terrible, I feel terrible, and I get to the board. It feels like that SpongeBob episode. I told Sam this when he was on. It feels like that SpongeBob episode where they're in the spaceship and they're looking at the control panel and they have no idea like what they're looking at, like SpongeBob and Patrick. Except for me, I was just Patrick. I had no SpongeBob to help me out because I asked Sam like if he could like give me some pointers. And like Sam said in a very stern voice, he was like, "There's really no questions at this point." So we're like going into the broadcast. I have no idea how to work this board. Jack's in the studio with Andrew Canary and I think it was Marty, and they're getting ready, and like I have no idea how to even
I'm
turn.
just picturing him just staring through the glass from
Yeah,
the
no, he is. He's because he's looking back at me too. I didn't even know how to turn his freaking mic on. I look terrible, and like I press like I finally pressed the right button, and then but what I don't do is like I think I somehow like had them muted or something, so their mics on, but they were somehow muted,
end.
something like that. It was crazy. So then like I have their mics on, like I'm expecting them to go, and then like I IFB Jack like annoyed. I'm like, "Are you gonna start?" And like Jack, I remember he gave me like a dirty look, like, and so we got off to a bad, I think, start because I think Jack, rightly so, and everyone else was not impressed with my performance. But luckily, I went back into Sam's good graces because right after that, I apologized, rightly so, as I should have,
Mhm.
and I trained, and then long story short, I'm here now, and I've produced many broadcasts and one-on-ones and podcast stuff like that, and I'm obviously much more comfortable now. But my first ever mock back in January of 2023 was a disaster,
Hey,
and
we've all been there. I'm
yeah,
still terrified to produce. I still am like, "Oh my god, I'm gonna do it wrong," but
yeah,
it survived all my mocks, which is good, so
that's good. That's good.
yeah.
But yeah, I just wanted to mention that, and I'm sure Jack will remember that when he watches this. I mean, I
Oh,
hope
he
he,
better.
yeah, I hope he does watch this,
Yeah,
um, and because it'll be high ratings. I mean, one thing that I just want to ask you, I don't mean to put you on the spot, but
yeah.
since you are a celebrity, would
Uh-huh.
you mind promoting this when I have this up, like maybe
Oh,
on
yeah, this is going
on
straight to
Twitter,
the Twitter and the
or
Instagram story.
yeah? So
Yeah.
this could be on the Taylor Mascetta Instagram story.
Yeah, the Tay929 Instagram story.
Yes,
Or the Team Set TV Twitter. I'm
this
plugging all my socials.
this is I'm I'm like going through the roof right now because sometimes it's like I posted that meme when I'm so excited. You ever seen that clip from Cars where Luigi falls over when he sees
Yeah,
that's me. That was me when Mike Calamari texted me after I had that great one-on-one with Colin, but that's also me right now when I got the confirmation that Tay 929 would repost this once I have everything set up.
we're
And so
getting that in front of the map. We're getting it on the map.
yes, yes, I really appreciate that because I'm trying to. One thing I wanted to run by you is I'm not only am I considering making Ben and Friends like its own Instagram account, which could maybe promote videos and stuff like that. But
Yeah.
what do you think of the idea of this? Might sound a bit overambitious of me doing stand up. Like, what do you think of that? Like,
Why
you
not?
think, yeah,
Yeah.
I think you could do stand up. I think you could
I
be
I
like,
I wish I could. I mean, I could try, but we'll
yeah.
see.
Are there any like local Syracuse comedy clubs that you could try it out?
There is one. I think a couple of my teammates have actually done it, but, I don't know if I'm I don't know if I'm that confident yet, so, well,
Yeah,
maybe one day.
yeah.
So,
I have a bit for you
up here
right
in New
now.
Comedy Wednesday nights. I don't even know where it is, but I know it's on campus, so
Oh, really? Okay.
yeah.
I have a quick bit before we go. If if you want to just listen. Um, One thing I've noticed is in all my life, I find it creepy. I just find it bizarre. I've never seen a McDonald's being built. Never in my life. They just pop up. It's like God just takes them, and it's like in Minecraft, you just put it right there, and they're just there. I've never seen a McDonald's, excuse me, or Burger King for that matter, being constructed. Like never in my life have I seen that. I think that's just what's up with that. I don't know about you. Um, have you never
I
see?
never seen him.
Yeah,
Now that I think about it, I don't know. I'll have to
yeah,
get on that, but
yeah.
no, I never have.
Yeah, it's definitely something to think about. I think it's a conspiracy. There's something behind that. We got to look into it. But Taylor, I want to once again thank you so much for coming on today. Tell all your friends, like we talked about you posting it, but show this to your track friends. I'm sure they
Oh,
would be
yeah.
interested, and especially some of the conversations we had about your experiences with Fordham Track and Field. Those conversations about mental health. So I think that would be exciting just to just give your teammates hit up the group chat and be like, "Hey guys, sorry to bother you, but
I listen to Ben and Friends.
yeah, yes,
Alright,
yes." But
cool.
last thing I want to, this is a tradition. I'm sure you've heard it. Is We have this thing where we say the guest name and then we say, "And I am one of Ben's friends." So
Got it.
can you say for me? Can you say for me? My name is Taylor Mascetta, and I am one of Ben's friends.
Got it. I am Taylor Mascetta, and I am one of Ben's friends.